He was respected, revered, unshakable in his faith, until now. Shocking new details have surfaced about Bishop J. Drew Sheard, and what's coming to light is leaving the gospel community stunned. From quiet whispers behind church walls to heartbreaking personal revelations, this isn't just a story about a bishop, it's a tragedy unfolding before our very eyes. And what you're about to hear may change how you see him forever. The gospel world has long looked up to Bishop J. Drew Sheard, a man of vision, integrity, and spiritual authority. As presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ, or COGIC, his legacy seemed rock solid. He wasn't just another preacher. He was born into greatness. The son of the iconic Bishop John Henry Sheard, J. Drew was destined to carry a legacy, one rooted in faith, sacrifice, and public expectation. He rose quickly, leading Greater Emmanuel Institutional COGIC, gaining national recognition, and standing beside gospel royalty, his wife, Karen Clark Sheard. When he was elected as presiding bishop in 2021, it was more than a promotion. It was prophecy fulfilled. The church erupted in celebration. Social media rejoiced. COGIC had its next spiritual general. But what no one saw coming was how quickly the weight of that title would start to crush him. At first, the cracks were invisible. But by late 2022, they were becoming harder to ignore. In several public appearances, Bishop Sheard looked different, more tired. His voice, once booming with confidence, sometimes faltered. Those close to him say the demands of post-pandemic leadership were unlike anything he'd anticipated. Church attendance was dropping. Virtual ministry was changing the game. And within COGIC itself, younger leaders were pushing for change while older leaders clung to tradition. On top of that, his mother's health had begun to decline, and the grief of losing his father, a spiritual giant, still haunted him. He tried to push through, smiling on stage, preaching every Sunday. But behind closed doors, the emotional fatigue was undeniable. And the silence? It was deafening. Then came the internal conflicts. Bishops and elders who once praised his rise began questioning his direction. Some said he was too focused on branding. Others didn't like the growing association with celebrity pastors and gospel stars. Private tensions spilled into hushed phone calls and secret board meetings. And behind the scenes, whispers turned into accusations. Money, leadership style, doctrinal direction. Every move he made was being dissected. For the first time, Bishop Sheard wasn't just a leader, he was a target. And the betrayal? It wasn't coming from outsiders. It was coming from within. Then came the moment that changed everything. A routine Sunday live stream at Greater Emmanuel. The sanctuary was full. Viewers tuned in expecting a word. But instead, they witnessed a moment of human collapse. Midway through his sermon, Bishop Sheard paused. His voice cracked. He tried to press on, but he couldn't. He looked out at the congregation, tears in his eyes, and said, "Even the shepherd can get lost." Silence. No shouting. No music. Just a room frozen in disbelief. That clip spread like wildfire. Some praised his honesty. Others speculated, was he depressed? Sick? Having family troubles? But the truth was deeper than any rumor. Sources close to the family revealed that Bishop Sheard had been quietly attending therapy. He had even considered stepping down, but was urged to stay, for the sake of the church's image. Then came the betrayal that cut the deepest. A leaked internal memo, suggesting he was emotionally unfit for leadership. An anonymous letter, calling for his removal. Leaked emails and boardroom recordings, sent not to the public, but to content creators hungry for the next viral story. Who was behind it? Insiders say it was people he once trusted. One had been a close family friend. Another had stayed in his home during revivals. Now, they were accusing him of prioritizing personal ambition over the church's mission. There was no scandal. No proof. But the perception alone was damaging. And the silence from Bishop Sheard? It spoke volumes. Then, the moment no one could have predicted. A packed Sunday service. Bishop Sheard walked to the pulpit, his notes untouched, his Bible closed. He stood there, quietly, for almost a minute. Then he spoke. He thanked Karen, his daughter Kiera, and his church family. Then he said, "For the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't enough." He admitted to battling depression. To feeling crushed by grief. To feeling abandoned by those he trusted most. And then, the bombshell. He announced he would be stepping away from national leadership duties. "I cannot pour into others if I'm running on empty," he said. Even bishops bleed. The church was stunned. Some wept. Others sat frozen. It was historic. No COGIC presiding bishop had ever voluntarily stepped away, not due to scandal, but due to sheer emotional collapse. And yet, it was also one of the most courageous moments the church had ever seen. While critics debated his future, Bishop Sheard was quietly laying a new foundation. Not for power, but for healing. He began meeting with pastors behind closed doors. No choirs. No cameras. No offerings. Just truth. They talked about depression, exhaustion, betrayal. And for the first time, spiritual leaders were admitting the pain they carried in silence. That network grew fast. Bishop Sheard wasn't disappearing, he was transforming. From a title-holding bishop, to a wounded healer. Then came the final twist. In a leaked recording, Bishop Sheard revealed that he had declined the offer to return as presiding bishop. "They wanted me back in the seat," he said, "but God showed me a different assignment." He announced plans to launch a nonprofit focused on mental wellness for church leaders, PKs, and burned-out ministry workers. Not a platform, but a safe place for healing. For a church that had long ignored emotional wellness, this was the conversation it could no longer avoid. He chose people over power. Purpose over position. And in doing so, started something far bigger than himself. So now, as the dust settles, we no longer just see Bishop J. Drew Sheard as a bishop. We see him as a man, broken, human, but profoundly honest. He gave the church his time, his strength, his legacy. And in the end, he gave something even more powerful, his truth. And maybe, just maybe, that was the most powerful sermon he ever preached.